Okay. Take two. Let's see. Hi, Queen of Cheesy. How's it going? We had some difficulties with that first video, but hopefully just a little reconnect will help out with that. Hopefully Nate can find us again and get in here. It was working good for like 5 minutes. Starting to hear about flying in the pandemic, which I'm interested in because I haven't just been hanging out at home. Hi, good. Happy to see you too. Thanks for coming in. I really enjoyed what I saw one of your paintings today pop up. Who was it? I remember really enjoying it though. I'm drawing a blank. Who did you post today? Oh yeah, here we go. Nate's back. Okay. You look clear.
Yeah, you sound good again.
Okay, we just needed a little hard reset. So you were talking about planes and everything. How are the rallies? Were people super aggressive towards you as a person of the press?
No, I'm from the Midwest, so I'm pretty good at being a chameleon and kind of fitting in a little. But mostly they're aggressive toward when the president told them to be.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, look at all those cameras, or you know what he does, and he gets them going, and I actually love that because then they make all these gnarly faces at us, and I can try and get some photos, and then, but they really did. They were unrelenting in harassing CNN's Jim Acosta, who a few months ago, or I don't know when it was, but he asked a question or a few questions Trump didn't like, and man, and he sicked them on Jim, and they go out of his way to harass, recording him, yelling at him throughout Trump's speeches and beforehand, just kind of, yeah, it's pretty gross.
I mean, I can only imagine.
I don't even think they know why what he did to, except cross Trump.
Yeah. What a crazy world, man. But luckily, so far so good.
I don't know. God, yeah, I'm kind of not. I'm not very hopeful if Biden doesn't get the Senate, and which I'm not too optimistic about because it is Georgia that it depends on, and even though Stacey Abrams is, and down there they've really mobilized to get out the vote. But yeah, Democrats lost seats in the House and Senate, and with redistricting, it just takes state legislators in a few states to take away the gains Democrats have made in certain districts, and usually the incumbent doesn't. Usually they lose seats in the midterms, and so. I
guess the one saving grace is how much Trump did by executive order, which can be undone without congressional approval. So some of the shit will go by the wayside right away, and then I don't know. I mean, fingers crossed, knock on wood, to see what can happen.
Ensuring that more damage can't be done.
Exactly.
I'm being, but Trump's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But, and then I'm worried. I'm just still anxious, and then you got Ivanka, who's a much prettier face and a little smoother with her words, and so yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we got a question from Brandy. Brandy, my better half. Nate says, does your art help you feel more or less hopeful being in the belly of the beast, so to speak?
Say that again?
Does your art help you feel more or less hopeful since you're kind of in these situations like Trump rallies and stuff like that?
Make me hopeful.
Yeah.
Oh. Good to be a photographer photographing this shit, but good time for me to be documenting. But I kind of see it as holding up a, there's, I just see what I see, and I think the pictures I don't have an agenda except to make pictures of what I see, and I think that's the most I can contribute to this moment is holding a mirror up to these people.
Yeah. Now you have like two sides to your work, which is like the one where you're capturing the moment and documenting the stuff, and then the others which are more like a concept or an idea you come in with and you stage, kind of like the superhero project and the book you just did.
Yeah.
Do you have one that you prefer more than the other, or it's just like different strokes? It feels good to be able to switch it up.
It's always fun to redefine, how people view what you do in your art, but define yourself, and that's what the superhero project was for me, because it's nice. The images, that kind of the aesthetic is a catalog aesthetic where it's high key and very, it's all about, not about the lighting or anything. It's just about the people who are featured and their stories that go with. And I'm much more passionate about the gritty documentation, being out there and kind of seeing what I see, than I am. The superhero project was just a chance we had an idea and we ran with it, and it got momentum, and right now it's on hold because of COVID and everything. I think I'll probably continue it in the future. There's still a lot of, I would like greater, not only diversity regarding, different kinds of people, but also geographic diversity. I want it to be hyper local to Seattle, where the project started, but I'd also like to get a wider scope of just kind of the diversity we see in this country geographically. And so we had plans to take it on the crowdfund and take it on the road, and 2020 didn't work out the year we'd all hoped, and so, but I thought for years I've been planning to be on the road all year, on the campaign trail. That's really where my passion lies. It's not especially about photographing the politicians, the figureheads. For me, it's more about the people who these campaigns inspire and bring out, and it's just an energy that's there that's not seen so much. Like if I were embedded in Washington D.C. and photographing the day in, day out things going on, and at the Capitol, the scheduled hearings and press conferences and staking out Politico sightings, and it's just not a lot of waiting around, and it's just kind of, I think I'm drawn to the people, the different faces you see out there.
Yeah, I feel a lot of what. Yeah, I also with Two Thangs kind of have that same thing where I was like, I'm going to be hyper local in one area, but I want the idea to spread. I want to get so many people involved in the project to kind of see their thoughts, see where they would take it, that sort of stuff. But then at the same point, I also start to think like, okay, I want this diversity, but especially these last 4 years, there are like, I haven't ever actually had to say no to something, but there are things in my head now. And probably when I started it, I would have just said, no, whatever somebody brings me, I'm going to work with. But like now someone's like, I want you to do, Adolf Hitler, painting with something, ridiculous that's positive on Adolf Hitler. I'm going to say no, I'm like, there are these lines that are kind of pushing me back in my diversity of America, so I want it to be more of a representation of the people, but also there are hard lines, I guess, that these last 4 years have taught me that I don't want to, have anything to do with, because it's always going to be some sort of reflection on me. Is that something that you want to have this diversity in the American Superhero Project, but are you at all worried about any of that stuff?
Yeah, that's an interesting. I think about that a lot. You know, it's like people are like, well, you know, because the project is about you know, it's been a few months since I had these at the top of my head, my catchphrases for kind of how to describe the project. But basically, it's showing, you know, and showing how we all get to be American and how that looks very differently, and it's not how it's been portrayed historically. And we all kind of, yeah, it's kind of shattering the preconceived notion of what American looks like, you know. And the project was of course inspired by Vishwajit Singh, friend of mine out of New York, who his performance art is about. He dresses up as Captain America and tells his story, and he challenges people. And he's a really awesome cartoonist too, and he's working on about his story. He's a great writer and interviewer. I really encourage people to Google "sick Captain America." He's inspired me in so many ways, and inspired this project. And so the project, what's great about the project is it connects us. We might be have drastically different backgrounds, but you know, the images are paired with narrative threads where there's something that in all of them, in each of them, that we can grab onto and relate to. And so I wondered for a while, you know, I pondered the idea of including Republicans I still had a little bit of respect for.
Yeah.
And you know, politicians, because we featured a number of congresswomen and high profile political people. And I think there's still some people I'd include, because I think that's how we build connection, and that's in the spirit of the project. But there's so many that I just, you know, it's my project, and and I just can't go there. Yeah, they've disappointed me time in and time out and repeatedly. And you know, for example, in Seattle, I had asked our mayor, Jenny Durkin, to participate. And she is the first woman mayor of Seattle, and in, you know, 100 years, about 100 years. And she's a lesbian, so, and she was all, you know, and she's also was the first openly gay U.S.
Attorney General, wasn't she? Was she Attorney General?
She wasn't.
Or
no, I'm blipping. But anyway, it was in the Obama administration, and I'll Google her and find out. But I'm having brain fart. But basically, so she's, and I've respected, you know, what she's done, but the way she handled the protests this summer and the police riots, really, I was very disappointed. He handled the whole situation here in Seattle, and I was very close to it, as I lived 3 blocks away from where everything was happening. And I wouldn't let her touch the project with a 10-foot pole now. You know, yeah. Nope, that's, you know, and so we get to, you know, and that's in asserting control. They get to shape the direction of this. You know, it's not about, I want to be very inclusive, but I also want to drive home a point. And I guess I need to, it's been a while since I've been, you know, the project's been on hold, but I need to really, talking about it with you, realize I need to kind of get it fresh again in my head so I can articulate it that better.
Yeah. I mean, that's always the thing is, I didn't realize before Two Thangs how much the like elevator pitch and the talking about it constantly about your project like helps you clarify exactly what it is you're doing, which is constantly moving. Like when you're working on a big project like the superhero project, it's just like you have an idea going in, but it's going to be gradually changing as you do it more and more. And the more you can keep talking about it, even if you feel like you're just repeating yourself, I feel like every once in a while there's a kernel of whatever shakes loose, and you're like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we kind of found out what it was as we went. You know, we started March of, you know, I got the idea. My collaborator, Christy Scoresmith, mother of 3 kids, and a really close friend of mine now, she kind of proposed the idea at a lecture with Vish when he came to Seattle, which is Seattle as a whole has been really receptive to his message and work, and so he keeps coming back. And but she has two transgender twin sons, and she said, it'd be great for them to have a mentor like you in their life, but it also she asked him if he'd considered the idea of letting other people who are othered in their daily lives dress up as Captain America beside him, and how empowering that could be. And my brain about exploded, and so asked friends, and we a few months later we coordinated the initial shoot, hoping for 10 to 15 of our friends, people in our community, to I maxed out my credit. We did the shoot, and we were just overwhelmed. Over 40 people came out to participate and be photographed in one day. And I put a team together and created, had a few volunteers, and then the core team of me, Vish, Christy, and my close photographer friend, Greg Evans. And we made it happen. But it was, I've been the only photographer in the room with now two presidents, Obama and Biden. And I've never felt so, usually I'm documenting political participation and activism. What was different about this was we made this happen. And what surprised us was we thought it was going to be about the photos, and we would attach maybe a sentence about being American with each photo. So we did some interviews, and we're just blown away by the stories everyone had to share with us. And so I think the story, the photo images are a fun way to bring you in to read the stories and engage with them. And they're pretty powerful. And so we found out it's just a really great template to get this out there, Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I very much enjoy the project, and not only the images you're creating, you got the technique down, so they're always very pretty to look at, but also the stories that go along with them are just fantastic. When you give those people what would be your power and what would be your origin story, and it's just it leads people. That's what I found with my art too, is you lead people and you let them take the wheel in some respect, and it gets a lot more interesting because as artists we can I think we're even pushed towards it in school to be like the artist, the creator. This is mine and I control everything, but that can be kind of limiting.
Yeah, and what this being open about our vulnerabilities is the best thing we can do for one another, and that's how we connect. And I think but yeah, not only being in front of a camera, many people, it's their first real portrait session they've ever done with a professional photographer. Not only that, but they're dressing up in a silly costume.
Yeah.
and to own it, with a pose, uniquely their own pose. And then they're loosened up a little, and we would go into a room and they'd share their stories, half hour to an hour, telling us about their vulnerabilities and superpowers and what it means to them to be American. And it's just so simple. And I think that's the best ideas are, and it's not trying much. It's just kind of just sticking with that. And it's been really incredible how receptive people have been. And so there's a lot of more people I'd like to include. I haven't taken photos for it since the beginning of February, but I have a friend who's a trans man who's he's very pregnant and due later this month, and I want to get him in the studio to participate in the project and kind of talk about what he's been through with that. And so yeah, I might revive it for a little bit, but in general, I'm at this stage of the year, I'm focused on my wellness, going easy on myself, and and editing, working with these political, these presidential politics and protest archives that I have from the last 5 years, and doing a book with that.
Well, rad. I'm excited. I will say that my aunt was talking to me. She hit me up because she knows I lived in Seattle for a long time. She'd visit me out there. And when the Chop Chaz was all going on, she hit me up because, she watches local news. She didn't really, I don't think, knows what to believe, especially with the way they're portraying it. And I sent her to your Rolling Stone gallery of the images you took there. And it was just kind of wonderful it shows that, yes, it is a little wild. It's a little outside the norm, but it's real. It's people, and it's not scary. It's not anarchy. It's not warlords. It's just real people expressing real frustration. Yeah.
After spending a week, before leading up to Election Day, attending 6 Trump rallies in 6 different states, I'll tell you, they did a good job of weaponizing it, the riots and the protests against us, using the imagery of fire, and juxtaposing them with the candidates, especially Kamala Harris. They really, man, and whenever I talk to people oh, you're from Seattle. I used to live in Seattle, glad I don't anymore. It sounds terrible. And it's that was all in a 3-block radius, and it's it's hard for me to be too sympathetic for either side, but I tell them what I know, and I lived there, and it was people with good intentions, and it was a police department that was negligent in their response to the neighborhood and the city. They rioted on peaceful protesters, and then they gassed a neighborhood, and then they abandoned a neighborhood. They abandoned the police station. They left the doors unlocked. Then the initial protesters, wanted, because they wanted the precinct to be looted, and you had people who were protecting it from anarchists who wanted to do just that, and then they're providing aid to the community, and of course we already have a huge houselessness problem here in Seattle, and it drew a lot of homeless people to the park where CHOP was, and there was a lot of mental instability, and the police wouldn't answer any calls.
Yeah,
a lot of friends are there, and it was just and the mayor and didn't take responsibility, and the police chief didn't take responsibility. Just a complicated situation, but it wasn't a situation that shouldn't be a reflection of where I live, of this city, at all.
What I've been telling people out here is, I know 0 people that move away from Seattle because of anarchists or Antifa or anything like that. I know a lot of people that move away from Seattle because it's too nice, because it's too expensive, because the business, upscale businesses are doing too well that are driving away any place you can afford to go and hang out. So, I don't really feel like that's a big Seattle problem. Is the thing that scares the suburbs. Crime's not really an issue in Seattle.
In our cities, and for you in the suburbs, before you know it, let us, stay in office, and yeah, it's really gross.
So when you go and shoot, and you're going off to a rally or an event to start shooting, do you come in with set ideas of pictures you want to get, or do you just let the situation unfold?
I play it by ear. I'm pretty organic in my approach. Sometimes I'll have, I don't know, it's based on the light and how much freedom they give us, outside the press pen, and for how long, and kind of what I'm seeing as far as what the people are wearing. The last rally I went to, Grand Rapids, it was super cold, and the people didn't wear much outwardly Trump gear, or they did, but not as much. These Trumpsters love their merch. And,
yeah.
But some places were more photogenic than others, and Sometimes I'm after a certain shot, but I kind of let myself see what I see, and that's the nice thing is a lot of other photographers are there just kind of putting in a day's work, doing their thing, and well, they're trying to get a good mix of shots for the wire agencies or their outlets. And me, if I just was at a rally, I get to maybe I got a great shot of Trump at the last rally. Well, the next rally, maybe I'm not so focused on that because I checked that off my list, And so
Yeah.
look at kind of, I don't know. It kind of just depends where I'm at as far as things. But I don't know.
Yeah, the Trump merch is pretty insane. There's like this week in Rhode Island, I guess there's like rallies going on where they're trying to, we want to recount in Rhode Island, a state that hasn't gone red since Reagan, and like Trump lost by 20 points. And then it turns out who's organizing these rallies? Well, it's the guy who owns all the New Englander for Trump stores, which there's about 6 of them. And today he just, he just said that he's going to have to close half of them, which kind of amazing because, well, I don't know what the running career are going to do.
I really think people, I mean, gosh, I tell people if I was smart, I would give up photography and sell Trump merch shamelessly. If I was a capitalist, that was the bottom line, because there's a lot money to be made, and they could it definitely wouldn't be hard to impress them. I mean, it's just lowbrow humor, and I have a feeling friends like you could come up with some pretty great stuff that they would just go gaga over. One idea I had, I was going to cover the Republican National Convention in Jacksonville for Mother Jones, and this summer I had a friend painted a American Gothic backdrop, and
Okay.
people for frumpy Trumpsters to stand in front of.
Just give them a rubber pitchfork, like not a real pitchfork. Yeah.
In my head for years.
That's pretty amazing.
And since it was on the road, I wasn't able to take the canvas with me on this last trip, but I'm understood, and but merch, man, people are making a lot of money.
When we drove out on our move, we stopped in actually the Dakotas. Both had a lot of Trump merch, even in like the real touristy places like Deadwood, and there were all kinds of shirts with like Trump riding Harley and dragging Hillary behind it and all this sort of shit. And you're just like, whoa. And a lot of it, I feel like they just take like a Big Johnson shirt and then just like slightly change the pun and put Trump's face somewhere in it. Yeah.
It's pretty, it's like a sports event, It's just kind of very tribal, and then they'll rail against tribalism. I would leave and my brain would just I was just dead. It was just like after every event, I'd be walking home to the hotel or whatever, and it was just on loop that they're so dumb. They're so like they're so dumb, and I couldn't get it out of my head how dumb they are. Like it was just engage a lot of just nice people. A lot of I had good interactions with them, and we found some commonality in those interactions. But then he dredges up all this grossness inside them, and they run with it and they eat it up. And I don't know. Yeah. So, but that's just sad because they're in my family, my own family. And it's just really, they're so far gone. It doesn't matter what he says. He can say anything and they'll buy it.
I mean, he started with his like line already pretty much crossed. So I feel like that was something I didn't see it catching on as much. But since he was already like, you know, the first big moment of his candidacy was the Mexicans are rapists, kind of thing. And so like he started off already over the fucking line that like, you know, things that have no factual basis. And then that people, I don't know, they've just like become so enraptured with the whole thing. They're not going to believe anything. And it's frightening because there's no way to like get through.
He doesn't win despite the racism. He wins because of it.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
yeah.
Yep. And that's the point, you know, and he knows it. And so and then we hate him and they're like, oh, they're out to get us. It's like, no, you're just gross. No redeeming qualities. And, you know, and that's what I also like about my job as a photographer is to, my job day in, day out is to make people look good, you know, and to flatter people and make flattering images. I mean, and it's so freeing to be, I love being at Republican Trump rallies because it's so freeing where I'm just seeing what I see. You know, I'm not trying to make anyone look bad or good. It's just, this is what I see. And it's just, I love that, you know, and it's, I don't know, it's just a different space for me to be in as an artist. And it's also, I love, I'm in progressive Seattle, so it's a different world and it's a chance to see new places and yeah, I don't know, mix it up. But
are you gonna? I mean, all right, if you know, wave a magic wand and somehow someone ends up in prison or something, and you know, the world goes back to being more what it was like during, say, Obama administration, something like that, a little more calm. A little less of the like outward hostility. Are you going to like? Would you look forward to that, or would you say actually this is such a wild ride to document? It was like riding a roller coaster, so I kind of miss it.
Oh, if things return to normal a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh well, I got plenty of weird photos I've made last few years, so I for things to slow down, if I could just focus on putting, you know, my ultimate goal all this time was to do a book. And at first I thought the Trump thing, maybe we all did, was a blip. And I thought I got to get out there and get on top of this. And then I thought the conclusion would be, the final chapter would be the inauguration of our first woman president, Hillary Clinton. And that was just the beginning of the project. And so I've got, you know, I started the year with 90,000 photos. I've narrowed it down to 50,000. It's getting really hard to narrow photo books are about 125 images, maybe a little more, and that wouldn't do it justice. So I'm right now I'm trying to sort out whether, got to run the numbers still, but whether it makes more sense to, I mean, ideally I'd do a really thick book, 600-page book, and I'm not sure that's financially feasible. And so I'm looking, maybe I do volumes, maybe I do it by year, you know, photos from 2015, 16, 17, you know, and yeah. So anyway, but that's ultimately where this is going for me. And so I'd love a chance for things to stop happening, but as we know, things are always happening. So I'll just have to clock out for a while. So
Were you trying to come out for the inauguration as like a bookend to that, to see if he actually hands over the keys?
Yeah, I've told people that the inauguration of a new president is the end of this book. And so, of this project. And so maybe I still follow politics because I love following it, but it's a new project. So the Trump era was its own, and, you know, and so, yeah, that'll be the final chapter. And so if Trump would have won, I would have said, well, I got 4 more years. you know, and so anyway, that's a relief. And
What
so,
was the first Trump rally? Was it like really early on in his candidacy?
it was my first time photographing him was September 2015 in Iowa, at an event with a ton of candidates. It was a faith and freedom event, and then the first rally I went to was actually in Vermont, 2 blocks from Bernie Sanders' campaign headquarters, at a theater at a theater. I think it only fit 5,000 people, and so that was my very first one. And I'd say I probably photographed him. I'd have to count, but I think about 30 times now.
Wow.
So, and 25 of those were rallies or so. So, but
Great.
others were or conventions or, you know, whatnot.
Yeah. Wow. So you got a lot of pictures of that guy.
People. So, yeah, I think it's a great body of work, and, you know, of course, I'm proud of it, but it's, you know, and a lot of times it's been unassigned, and vast majority haven't been published. I've been self-assigned, doing it for myself. And so, you know, if I get paid or published, that's always gravy. But, you know, 95% of these images haven't been seen. I'm sitting on a lot of stuff, so I really think, yeah, I'm really proud and just kind of want to get it out there. And so that's what I'm trying to switch gears toward. So
Yeah.
trying to prioritize editing these images and organizing a book in the way I you know, because I'm not going to wing it. I'm a perfectionist, and so I want it just right. And I have ideas for it. And so.
And you just did that book for the Seattle Public Schools, right?
Yeah, so the superhero project, the health director of Seattle Public Schools, Lisa Love. Oh, did you see that? She reached out July 2019. Saw the superhero project, was inspired, saw it as a potential vehicle for telling the stories of queer and trans students and staff and families of Seattle Public Schools. And because she's been wanting to tell she hears all these stories, and she's been wanting to tell them for years. And we were fast friends too, and we were basically doing a handshake over the phone. And she told me she had a decent budget, and which was a lot of money in my world, a lot of money to prioritize work that I'm passionate about, you know. And so basically I wanted to do the same thing with that, where we do portraits of students alone, individually, and then with their families, and then have them tell their stories. And like the superhero project, I would be the editor of that, where we would do half-hour to an hour-long interviews, and I ended up those down, you know, editing for clarity and concision, and while maintaining their voice, editing them down to 300 to 600 words. And so in the course of this project, I did the photos. I didn't do all the interviews, but I sat in on all the interviews, and then edited the photos, edited their word, you know, transcribed them using software, and then edited them. That took about 2.5 months. That was the hardest part. I'm a good editor, but I was basically the copywriter too. So I wrote the whole book, and then designed it. And I had help from a friend, Dan Berman, who got the design, kind of did templates and got it going, and then I made it my own from there. And so it was, you know, I used to be a copy editor and page designer at a newspaper in my past life before moving to Seattle 11 years ago. But it was basically my first time doing that sort of work, you know, design work in 11 years. And so 100-page hardcover book, extremely proud. We've done a run. We did a first edition of 500 books. We just sent it to the printer today for our second edition with revisions. So basically the second edition is the way I perceived the first edition being, but because of timelines, you know, and everything, you know, I found there a few little mistakes that no one but me will notice in the first edition, but the second edition's my baby. That's the one that I'm going to snap up all the copies to give to friends and family.
Awesome.
But it was
Is
definitely,
Is this going to be for sale in stores and stuff? Or is this like an internal public school?
Yes. The school is put out by the schools, the school district. 2 books for the library, and then local about 20-25 community centers will also get books, and then so that's and then the families each get a copy. So after that, there's probably less, a little over 700 books out there, and people can order them now through the school district, but no one's profiting off the sale. It's philanthropic, where we're selling them at the cost we get them, selling and mailing them to people. And so because to be accessible as much as possible, and so I think they were running for a little less than $40 a book, and but the school's agenda is, I mean, their bottom line is protecting these families who shared their stories, but also
Right.
getting it out to local families, and their next job is the school district just passed something that where the school board I'm getting flushed with my words, but basically the beyond, beyond the school district and beyond locally. And so I think if it were adapted by a publisher or something, I frankly think it would be a bestseller. Nothing has ever been done like this, and these stories are extraordinary. I mean, more so than my photos, the photos are just a gateway, and to meet these people. Stories are really exceptional. They still I still get choked up reading them, and I've spent a lot of time with them, and the stories are really phenomenal. And I've already get feedback from parents and educators who've gotten the book and are just like, wow, this has really helped me in what I do, and also, for example, we had an exhibition, and there was a family who's, their extended family loves them and their transgender son, but couldn't really relate and didn't really understand it all. And the grandparents came to our exhibition, read these stories, and for the first time, get it. For the first time, they got it, and like, oh, okay. Like, we see that this is an aberration, our grandson's not, it's just this is normal. And I don't know, it's been really powerful, and I've been really humbled to be able to facilitate getting these stories out there.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand, like, keeping it insular and, like, not wanting these families to be maybe super exposed, even more so than they thought when they signed up. But I think, it sounds like such an amazing project. I would love to read it.
Yeah, it's been, and it really, I consider it kind of a prototype for, I'm really into kind of holding timeline and what goes into this whole thing, and so it was really a wonderful opportunity, and just, I don't know, it's been the best opportunity of my life to be able to do this. So very proud, but it basically it was my whole existence for 8 months.
Yeah.
And so luckily I didn't have much FOMO because there wasn't much happening out in the world. I was cooped up, but made friends with some pigeons, as people who follow my Instagram know about or are familiar with. But I'm super. It was quite taking because we basically just had a core team of 3 of us: my boss Lisa Love and the mother who. Christy Scoresmith was the producer, and so them and I, put a lot into this. So, yep. For a moment, I know it frozen because you were sitting so still.
There's I don't know, I'll have to check the internet in here because it's getting it's spotty at times, but it's going pretty well. I think so. Anyway, it would be like just a jump in words, but I can usually figure it out.
Like a robot.
Yeah, a little bit. But Yeah, it's been a weird time, man. Last year and the last 2 years, I was traveling a lot, going to all kinds of conventions. Just real work heavy, really focused on work. Especially, we didn't have like a big social scene in Boston, so we were both me and Brandy were very focused on our work. And it was like every weekend we had somebody in town, or we were working somewhere, or we were traveling somewhere. It was just going hard, hard, hard. And then this hit, and it's been so the opposite now for 8 months, that it's just been wild to have this unexpected transition into this new world.
Yeah, let me tell you, yeah. You know, it's been my life. I had some personal things happen that were the two hardest things that have ever happened to me happened. And, outside of all the peripheral kind of this whole situation we find ourselves in. And I keep saying, God, this is the hardest year. And it's been a lot of self-reflection, a lot of time for that, a lot of stuff, a lot of growth. But I think when I look back, it'll probably be the most transformational year of my life. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of us can say the same thing.
I definitely think so. Yeah, I think it's been good. I mean, even people that, I still live that Peter Pan lifestyle, in some ways, a lot of the adult things that are supposed to happen to you, I don't know that will ever happen. There are like the other people that did settle down with families, but were trying to balance that like travel and work and partying and music and all this sort of stuff and family, and now they're just fully into family stuff. And I wonder, probably a lot of them are just never going to come back, even when the other stuff does. And I mean, for better. For a lot of them, I think they realize like they enjoy all this time seeing their kids, seeing them grow up, stuff like that. Me, I'm itching to go out to some live music and some shitty dive bars with a bunch of idiots. It
up and this year, and put myself out there. Instead, I made really good friends with pigeons for, at least 4 months. Nothing but pigeons in my life. And but
you got quite a pigeon following too. I mean, I remember when you first started, it was just your two friends, Bert and Ernie. But like now, it's like a flock is at your window when you're posting pictures.
Right one, so I know who that one is. But everyone else, there's one with feathers on its feet. Kind of have the gist of you, but they don't anymore. At max, I usually have about 10 to 20 of them out here.
Wow.
And part of they're a flock now. So I don't know if it's seasonal, because they were in the spring and summer, came in pairs, and then they came individually because one was sitting on the nest. And I have a lot of young adolescent, baby ones now. And so I might have some third generation birds for all I know, because not a second generation, that's for sure. And so,
I'm kind of surprised you haven't started a coop down in the courtyard. It just like go full Mike Tyson.
Well, the building, as you know, you used to have a studio here. The manager did have me. I probably need to get down there and clean again, because I didn't realize how messy it was on the floor. Below my
oh. poor Mike Donnelly.
Like the party, but they don't clean up after themselves. And he's like, I'm all for wildlife, but just you're gonna have to clean up, Nate. And so I'm probably due another. I know the guy under me, I need to do something nice for him, because I know they sprinkle his windows with birds. So, but so yeah, yeah. Here,
go ahead.
I really appreciate how, we don't see people in passing. What I've really appreciated, I guess, is we have to be like this right now, we have to be really very intentional about connecting with other people. And we have to be forward and we have to be proactive. And if we want to see it in our lives. And so I think I do appreciate the intimacy of the connections I've had and made this year. So
I agree. And we actually, we've been talking about that a lot because, you know, we spent 2 years in Boston and like I made some, maybe a couple people that I would consider friends, but many more acquaintances, you know, where it's like people that I'll see out and we'll have a little conversation or something, or I'll see them at work or, you know, but there were very few that kind of went beyond that to where I would call them or they would call me and we would go do something. But down here in Providence, we've kind of been meeting some people through like friends will be like, oh, I have this friend in Providence. You guys should hang out. And we'll just, because we have a backyard now, we'll get a fire going. We'll have some beers in the backyard, socially distanced. And I feel like we are actually friends with these people, like because of that, because it's not just, you know, seeing them when I see them. It's like intentional. So I definitely feel like that's the case. Even some old friends I've connected with over the phone a lot more over this last year or 8 months than I had before. So, I mean,
through the nature of my work as a photographer out there at events and things, I've made passive connections with a lot of people over the years, and I have quite the community on Facebook and stuff. But I meet a lot of just people I'm so impressed with and would like to know, but wouldn't mind getting to know better, who I never get a chance to follow up with. And I've used this time to kind of, you know, not everyone, of course, but really make time for people I wanted to know better. Told them, hey, you know, we've been on, really, I'm drawn to you know, in the courtyard outside my studio, you know, kind of things like that. And so it's been, I don't know, I'm just really thankful for, I don't know. And I'm lucky. I think you too, that I'm going to be okay, you know, and it's just, kind of, you know, and I'm pretty poor, but I'm going to be okay, you know, and if I can get active unemployment figured out, I'll be really okay.
I'm too much of a chicken shit to ever actually say those words outside of my mouth, just because I feel like I'll jinx myself. But I feel the same way.
I was fully eligible. I can get that. It's still I thought by waiting it would be easier, but it's still statewide. It's still a mess getting the system to work for you. And so I'm still holding out hope, but I shouldn't get my hopes up. And I think that's what this year's taught us. We need to all manage our expectations quite a bit. You know? Yeah,
definitely. I mean, and spending a lot less also helps because it's not really doing much. But I basically the entire 5 years I've been in business for myself, it's been all about like just get through to Christmas season because that's when money starts coming in. And so when I get here, I'm like, okay, I'm good until January 1st at least. But I mean, who knows? I mean, who really knows with this Christmas? The whole year's been kind of wild with trying to figure out patterns to selling and stuff like that. It'll be great for no reason 1 week and then dead a month after that. But like, I'm fingers crossed this is going to be a good Christmas season, and then I'll have to start working in like February or March.
Christmas, do you try to get inquiries ahead of time for Christmas, or kind of, because I can't imagine having to be cranking, you know?
I just did my first Christmas painting for someone and shipped it out this week. So people like to stay ahead. I also do these things that are like certificates where like basically the way Two Thangs works is like people bring me their 2 ideas and I get them 2 to 3 sketches on how to combine them. So for the certificates, like I sketch up 2 to 3 ideas and print them out really nice and sign them, and I send them to the person, and then they give that to their friend as a gift. And then their friend comes and works with me, picks one of the sketches that they like, So that's like easy, and I can get those done within like a couple days if I really had to, whereas the paintings are like a month. Yeah. So hopefully I've got a couple more in the bank before I'm caught up right now, and then the Christmas orders are going to start coming in. And it's just kind of crazy because I'm selling all the prints and the pins and stickers and all that sort of stuff. So fingers crossed that comes in and new orders come in, and I'm just rolling in money, Providence money, where your dollar goes forever.
Yeah, what? I'm just curious because I hadn't asked. Providence, is that close to Boston?
Oh yeah, it's like, so basically in Providence, you're about 40 minutes from Boston and 3 hours from Brooklyn. So it's like kind of in between the two.
Northeast is a big job to me. Yeah, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I think until you live out here, it just will never make any sense because it's just like a bunch of little places all around. Especially Rhode Island, it's tiny. You can drive from one end of the state to the other in like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and they get 2 senators. It's like,
yeah, I know, right? Cha-ching! I know. And yeah, I mean, that's why those Trumpers are so ridiculously that they thought that they were going to somehow take over the vote when they're like, it's a city. It's a big city that you're not going to compete with your 200-person town.
Yeah. Well, they're really living in another reality, and
yeah. But it is cool because it's like it's really Providence. It doesn't make any sense why it's so affordable, but it is. So I'm taking advantage of it. We saw there's a bar and then 2 2-bedroom apartments above the bar that are for sale. It's down the street from our house for $350,000. So your mortgage would be like, even if you didn't put down a down payment, it'd be like $2,000 a month, and you'd own a bar and 2 2-bedroom apartments. It's like it just doesn't make any sense. But I'll take advantage of it.
Coming from, yeah.
So,
I moved in with my new roommate Annie at the beginning of October, and I got a place on the water on Portage Bay, north of Capitol Hill, and I'm surrounded by mansions and prime real estate, and it's this old house that was supposed to be demolished, raised in around 2007, 2008, but then the recession happened, and it got to live another day, and so I'm in this funky old house where the bathroom's straight out of the 50s. You know, it's so old where the shelves in the kitchen have wallpaper on them, like flowery wallpaper.
Wow.
Yeah, the pink, and it's just totally, it's the weirdest bathroom I've ever seen. But we have a view of the water, and so as far as Seattle goes, my rent's pretty cheap. So it's made, I basically I had an apartment because I was never there while I was working on the schools project. And so it's called Our Students, Their Stories. And I was basically living at Inscape Arts Building all year. And so it's nice to have, I was almost thinking, well, I practically live here anyway, might as well double down and just move in. But I think it's for the best and healthier that I got a place I really like going home to. And a roommate who cooks.
That's it.
So.
It's always very tempting, but I always feel like that separation between work and home is so necessary. Even if you're just working hard, if you just go home and fall right to sleep, so you're sleeping in your bed and you're not in the place where you're making the stuff, it just breaks it up enough to get you a little bit of a recharge.
Obviously, the mistake I've made all these years, where I've been a workaholic, and I had my studio mate here at the building. He's like, Nate, it wouldn't be good for you. You just never you leave, and I think the best change of pace with moving has been, what you've done recently to Providence has been the new territory to explore. Kind of gets me out of normal routines, not all of which, or not many of which, were that healthy. in the first place.
Yeah.
And kind of keeps me on my toes. And so anyway, that's been really positive. And
it's important. I feel like it's so easy to fall into routines. And I think that it's comfortable and it's nice and easy, and you're going to have your favorite whatever, but you gotta variety. You gotta keep it spicy.
I'm going to start using that, Matt. Keeping it spicy.
I actually just outspiced myself today. I made some breakfast burritos and I threw in some Scotch bonnet pepper into the eggs. So they're already a little spicy. And then part of town we're living in is a huge Latin community, and the Mexican food is just next level. And I got some tacos the other day, and so I kept the red sauce, and I poured on my burrito, and I about cried like my eyes dry. I was like just dying. I doubled the heat. It was a terrible idea, but it changed things up.
I don't know.
So kept it spicy.
Made me think of it and the spicy, but I really love your Halloween costume. You always kind of you're truly one of my favorite people to watch on social media. It's like what are him and Brandy? What are they doing now? You know, like what?
We had fun, especially I was planning mine for a while because I was like, I want to go with COVID because, you know, when has my hair been this long? Never. I've had the same haircut since college, you know, and I'm pretty disheveled looking. And I was like, who do I love that's disheveled? I was like, oh, Mick Foley is like a hero of mine. So I had that planned. And then Brandy did her Joey Ramone in like 5 minutes, but it looked good. I think I would have seen her and been like, yeah, Joey Ramone.
You were unmistakable. And, I forgot what I was going to say. It happens a lot. But yeah, damn it. Anyway, just gotta learn to roll with the mind blips, you know, and forget what I'm saying. Just kind of, yeah.
I mean, yeah, it happens. It's like, yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I've got like, not dementia, but forgetfulness runs in my family. Nobody tell Brandy about this because she'll use it against me. But and as I get older, I definitely find it just like absent-minded, stupid forgetting of nothing. You know, forgetting a word or forgetting that trash is tomorrow or whatever. It's the worst. It makes you feel dumb, but it really has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, it's not so that I needed to say that. It just what was that I needed to say? I don't know. It's getting old, especially as we're getting old and everyone's married with kids and houses, and I'm still just kind of doing my thing, and I'm just glad people support me in doing it. And
yeah,
rooting me on, and it just kind of, because I, you know, with artists, I don't know, I tend to be really self-absorbed with what I'm doing. I'm just so thankful there are people out there just rooting me. Just kind of, you know, I just did this trip where I was supposed to hit 7 Trump rallies in 7 days, but it was 6 because the one in North Carolina got canceled right as I arrived. But, you know, I put it out. Someone donated to my Venmo, and I didn't really want to put it out there. But then they got in a comment thread, and so a friend from high school, and through my trip, I put it out there that, hey, you know, I just really, and I've spent much predominantly on flights. I'm super thrifty on these trips, and I put it out there and included my Venmo, and it was overwhelming how many people pitched in. Just a little bit at a time, it made all the difference, and it was all these people who just wanted to see what I made from the trip, but also just wanted to show their support. And it's just kind of really humbling, and really right now I'm working on, I got to figure out a way to, because I could ask everyone individually for addresses, but that just sounds like a mess. I mean, it was enough people that I got to find a streamlined way to do this. And so I'm today I asked my network, for the best survey software or app or whatever to compile addresses and let people choose prints they'd like me to mail them as a thank you. Because it was really like, holy moly, like my phone kept dinging, on Venmo, if you have the sound on, ding, 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 like it makes a cash sound or a cash register sound. Yeah.
Yeah, cha-ching.
Yeah, and it made and it made it's that much easier not having to. It's the only time in my life I haven't stretched money for all of us. It's such a weight, especially as artists trying to just make work we're passionate about that makes a difference. And so
that's definitely been something I've been very thankful for during this time. It's not necessarily owning my own business, but like having work that I'm passionate about, being able to go and work on things and still never feel like I lost purpose. Whereas if I was still floundering around, probably trying to find another office job or something like that, even if I'm getting unemployment and sitting at home watching Netflix, which I did a lot of, but the fact that I never felt without direction during all this has been very nice.
Yeah. Working with purpose and intention and kind of stuff you're passionate about. You're very good about that, and I've done a good job of staying focused and in a lot of ways obsessed over kind of work that means something to me. And
yeah.
original idea to an idea that I want to commission you for finally,
Oh yeah.
to do so comfortably, it's kind of like, oh, we're going to do this. So, yeah, but yeah, basically this trip I was able to call, it feels really good. So, now I got to figure out how to finance this book. And so that'll probably be pre-orders, but just figure out a way to do it responsibly. Yeah.
Well, I'll probably be coming to you to talk to get any tips you have once you do it, because I'm definitely trying to figure out the whole book publishing world right now, and it's like way more complicated than anything else that I've done. I don't know, but if you can navigate it, it's nice.
I learned a whole lot about prices and stuff that'll come up, and we're just working with a local printer, but there were some blips because anyway, long story short, there were some blips, but they had an employee who had other issues going on in their life, and so that was the source of the problems. And so, but now that that's passed, and they've been I'm really impressed with, but I've learned a lot. And so if you ever have questions, because I think absolutely I want to see that Two Thangs book.
Yeah. I've got it. Like, I got the concept ready. I've got a lot of the research done, and that's definitely I'm going to hit 2021 on the ground with that book, and that's going to be real big focus. That and also jigsaw puzzle. Those are my two I want to get done. So.
And I was.
Oh shit.
Bernie and Hillary, and they were real popular, and I didn't wasn't able to market or prioritize them, but I sold 70, and they were overpriced mugs because of what I had to cost me to get through Costco and to ship everything. They were about $35, which ideally they would have been so I made $20 profit on each one, and so, but that might be an idea for you too. You could buy a mug press and make your paintings into mugs.
I've heard. I did actually. Do you know who Jake Stratton is?
Jake Stratton.
Dig Stratton. Well, he's an old friend of mine, and he is this amazing guy with all these different great things on his resume. Like his band Blood Hag was signed to like Alternative Tentacle Records with like Jello Biafra and everything like that. And he was the announcer for Rat City Roller Girls when they're in the Key Arena and all that. He is like a pro wrestling manager. He ran like all these different shows.
Guy who threw coffee on Alex.
Yes. He hates it. He doesn't like anyone bringing it up, but that is also on his resume. And I made this real fun, you remember the Andre the Giant Has a Posse thing that Shepard Fairley did? I did a Jake the Prof Has a Coffee, little like design takeoff on the old Shepard Fairley thing. And a lot of people asked for that on a coffee cup, but I talked to Jake and he's like, I don't want to be associated with that. He's like, I don't want to. I mean, he got a lot of death threats and stuff from all those crazy people. He had enough. He doesn't want to be on his resume at all, which is too bad because it was awesome. I was really happy that morning. He did Seattle proud.
That's happened to me. They've come out. People, more politically, social. But their humanity is lost on me. And you're trying to do your part, come at you. And so, without getting into it, the weeds, but it was, but I can relate with what he's saying, kind of. It's for example, going viral, I tell people going viral is normally not fun. At first, exciting, but then it devolves into something that it just kind of takes over your existence for a few days, at least if you're lucky, just a few days. Like it really navigating that is a whole nother thing.
Well, even I went mildly kind of viral when I did the Betty Page Divine mural. And I was kind of like on the newspapers and in The Stranger or whatever. And like I was really lucky because that project was like so well received that pretty much like 95% of the people that responded were overwhelmingly positive about that happening. But like even still with that, you get tricked into reading the comments. There are always going to be some idiots that like no matter what you do will just like poke you with a stick for no reason, and you're like, it'll stick with you even if you don't want it to, even if you have a healthy self-esteem. So it's bunk. Just do your work and you'll be way happier than any gratification. If you can make money, do it. If you can get over that hump. I've
had a lot of, anyway. Trying to, I don't know. A lot of times it's people doing what I do. I take pictures of other people and people who oftentimes want to be seen and heard. And there's a real psychology that I'm not sure people who aren't photographers understand, that just because, consent comes in different forms, and a lot of it's psychological and just kind of people know I'm there with my camera. I'm very and forward and people, what I've learned over the years taking pictures, people let you know and they don't want you to make a picture of them. And they're about it. Yeah. Somehow, whether it's with words or whether it's a head shake or whether it's averting their gaze and trying to cover up or move, and people let you know. And generally I don't like to make pictures of people who don't want to be photographed because it's there are plenty of people who do, and try to respect that. And but a lot of anyway, it's been but I guess that's the biggest issue that's come up this year, because with activism, it's the issue of consent and photography in public spaces at public demonstration. All these really huge issues, you know, police surveillance, class, privilege, race. I don't know. It's just, I'm not even, there's just all, it's kind of deals with the intersection of all of these things at once.
Yeah.
And navigate, it's been a learning experience. And so I've definitely grown from it all, but been an interesting space to be in. So I think we've all you know, basically this year took us from exchanging bread making recipes to full-on national conversation on systemic racism.
Yeah.
Holy moly! You know, it's like we went zero to full throttle in an instant. And so,
I mean, the people weren't the only ones having self-reflection. I feel like the entire country had a little bit of time to have a societal self-reflection and say, like, okay, shit's fucked. we can do better.
Yeah, and I hope the momentum continues, but in constructive ways, and I hope you know, and I think what I've learned is intention is one thing, but the impact is a whole nother thing. You know, intention, impact of our actions and what we do. Because I like to think most people have good intentions, but it depends how things are received and kind of how you're. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I agree with that 100%. It's like you to be like ethical, you have to have both. You have to not only have your good intentions, but you have to be aware of, even you may be right, you may be completely right, but you have to kind of think about the ways it will impact the world positively and negatively. And if it is more negative than positive, then you need, even if you're right in the right, you still have to think about those things and take that in. Like, you know, just like, you know, how I probably 3 or 4 years ago would, you know, call the police. And now I feel like I would never call the police unless I was about to be murdered. I feel like, you know, like things like that. Like I was traveling earlier this year and I saw this guy driving down this highway, like a busy highway, and he must not have latched his hood, so his hood had flipped up and like crashed his windshield, and he was ducking down on the steering wheel so he could see in between the hood and the engine and look out his car, and he was driving at like 65, 70 miles an hour doing that, which was insane. But it was a person of color. So I thought, like, should I call the police? And I'm like, no, I don't want to be responsible for this guy's death. Like, I don't want to see him get shot by the police and then have it be me. And he was driving along. Maybe he was just getting to the next exit or something, but he was going and able to do it. It did not seem safe whatsoever to me, but yeah.
My hood flew up many years ago. I had to navigate that, but I don't think I was on the hot. Well, I don't know. I had to go fast for it to fly up, but yeah, just trying to get to an exit, you know, where you can do something or an off side or something. Yeah. But exactly, reflecting last 3 years, there's been a few instances at my old apartment, which is in an area where we mental instability and there was a church across the street, and you know, like guy trying to break in the church, yelling and screaming, and in that instance we did call the police but recorded the whole thing, you know, because we were very nervous about the direction things could go, and so we were monitoring the whole thing. But in that case, that was an instance where the police conducted themselves very. I was super impressed, but we unfortunately we can't count on that.
Yeah.
You know, I was really impressed how they helped this individual in that moment, but you know, who was I don't want to make assumptions, but yeah, it was really reassuring that that can't be our where we're coming from. I don't know.
Yeah, it's it's a different way of thinking about things, but I definitely come around to it. Intention has to be balanced with good results.
Yep, yep. And kind of what's our aim, and doing what we do. Kind of what's our what goals do we have for ourselves or for others, and kind of putting this work out there, and so yeah. So I don't know. People are like you're so brave for doing this work and stuff. And COVID. Going to these big COVID parties.
Yeah.
Try stuff. But usually, I kind of a lot of times it's hard not to think of it as it's pretty just selfish and self-absorbed. This is the work I'm passionate about, and I'm doing what I have to do do it, and and all I'm doing is I have friends who are frontline workers, and they're real hard things. I know a lot of nurses in the hospitals and ICUs and stuff, and just doing really hard work day in, day out. And I make pictures, and I have the freedom to, tomorrow I get to sleep in. And I am a workaholic. I've toned it back these last 2 months for the first time ever since this book ended. But since the beginning of 2019, I was working 70 hours a week, but it was doing stuff that, I want to be doing, and yet I'm just making photos. And so it's just really neat to me, but, I don't know. I haven't quite made a connection between what I do and versus all the important things other people are doing,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of weird to me, and I still struggle with it because so many doing tangible
that story.
I'm just making photos. I'm not canvassing. I'm not, I don't know. Yeah.
Well, even that story I told you about my aunt earlier, your documentation of the Chaz Chop was able to really show her the reality of the situation. And I think that she appreciated it, especially she had come visit me in Seattle and stayed right there in Capitol Hill near those things, but had no idea that's where it was happening. So I think, your work is important. And it does do those things. You're capturing something that's happening.
Yeah. The moment is now. So, yeah, I guess that's what we have. Turbulent times like the 60s and stuff. That's when the imagery's the most powerful imagery we get to see it. Unfortunately, we're living in another one of those times where shit's fucked and yep, good. When I was so depressed when Hillary lost the election, so depressed. We all were. And I think
yeah,
what they went through and experienced. But my dad reframed it, and he's like, well, if that's, good, if that's the worst thing in your life, life's pretty good. And then second,
yeah,
is what I have to tell myself. I come back to quite often that, if this is the thing I'm worried about, if I'm focused on losing not being able to find my iPhone cord, life's pretty good. It's bothering me. And second of all, it's a wonderful time to be making, this imagery.
yeah. I've had just a couple kind of images come in through the grapevine during this that were directly related to coronavirus and pandemic. But I did have one that came in that was Black Lives Matter and coronavirus as a combination for the painting. And I did something that felt like it resonated, but where I took a Civil War monument and then took the poses of all the soldiers, but replaced them with protesters, Black Lives Matter protesters marching along a backdrop of coronavirus and tear gas and stuff like that. And an angry tweeter, an angry Twitter bird behind him. But yeah, I don't have that kind of immediacy. For most of the time, most of my subjects are like things that have stayed with people for a longer period of time. Like there's not many people that are trying to capture a moment with the painting that they order from me. But it was fun. I felt a little more like you do, I think, all the time, where you're in the moment creating something that speaks to now, that's resonating with the current climate. But it was fun to get at least one in during this.
I'm curious to see. I haven't seen that.
Oh yeah, I'll send it to you. It turned out good. It was a nice painting. I felt pretty positive. It was fun to like visually do the same thing the protesters are doing by tearing down a Confederate monument. And this is the one that's actually, I think it's in Arlington National Cemetery. So it's not getting torn down ever. I don't think it's gonna be there. So it was fun to tear it down.
Yeah. What a time. The nice thing about the images I get to make is I think
Yeah. Oh shoot, Nate. I think I might have lost you.
I got my camera in the marriage equality movement in Seattle, and I'll always look fondly on that period, And I think as a new photographer, I didn't anticipate my images. How I was trying to compose or see things, and I think as an artist, artists need to be aware that they'll never have that first year or two back, when they really don't know what they're doing. They're just doing it. And I think my approach has become a lot more, not formulaic, but a lot more methodical in how I go about things. It used to be just kind of running towards things and didn't have a preconceived notion of how to frame it. And I think that's special. And I think a lot of artists need to embrace that. But I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I agree. But then I also feel like you never appreciate it when you're pushing your limits, because it always feels frustrating and ugly and like uninformed. But you're still like always pushing forward, and then you look back and you're like, oh, I fell into this pattern or whatever. But like it's only in retrospect. While you're doing it, it's still hard and. It's kind of funny. I mean, it's the grass is greener kind of situation.
Yeah,
but it is.
What I do now, but I'll never have that fresh eye again.
Yeah.
And because I do fall into patterns on how I go about it, and it's a lot more effective probably, but I like to think. But yeah, interesting. Huh.
But then you find a new project and it opens up some new toy to play with some new composition, a new color in my case, but like probably in yours, it's more of a, just like, oh, look at how that worked out. I'm going to try and turn that into one of my patterns that I'm working on perfecting.
For example, the black and white I stumbled upon doing this documentary work primarily. In black and white, I tended to prioritize that because a lot of times it was just the means to an end where I wasn't being paid to do this work, and it was just for me, and I had client work. It's like piles of client work I had to do and deadlines, and so it was a way to get some of the work out there without having to spend so much time doing color corrections. Because if I could be the happiest guy ever if I could get by never making a color image again. Or just when I wanted to, because color corrections take a long time for me. And so black and white became a way of streamlining my process. And it just so happened that it was distinctive and it had its own, people could see the images and know that they were mine based on the processing, the heavy processing. But it distinguished my work versus, a lot of times the imagery people are seeing from these events or from the wire services, and they're not works of art. They're, taken by technically brilliant photographers who are very good at what they do, but they're not supposed to be distinctively theirs. And so when you put it on a wall, I'm not sure I'd be able to tell one friend's work from another's, you know, just the nature of work. And so it's funny how kind of as you go, you just find your groove. You just got to do it. And that's what I tell everyone, just kind of, you can be a photographer. It's going to be hard, but it snowballs. It's easier every year. And if you, and half the battle is just being a good person and smiling and being good with people and enjoying it and looking like you're having more so having fun than doing a job. You know, I've seen across other photographers, they look like they're working and when they're supposed to be an event photographer or something, it's just not, I don't know. Yeah, that I think you receive the energy you put out in the world, and that's half the battle.
Especially photography, yeah.
So yeah, and the other half is, I guess, having yeah.
But I think you're 100% right in that part of being an artist is pushing and being distinctive. It's doing your own whatever it is, and that's all creative arts. But different arts kind of like push different levels of that. Like I'll take stand-up comedy as an example.
Yeah.
Whereas like there's more of orthodoxy to that. You are supposed to learn how to tell a joke and how to hit a punchline and do these things, and a lot of people respond to it. But then you see the people that turn stand-up comedy into actual art are the ones that are changing that, doing it their own way, putting their stamp on it, you know, pushing beyond what's already been done or what's maybe technically a really hard skill to learn, but doesn't use the creative forces within it.
Yeah, I mean, I've had my moments when I'm stoned and stuff where like I'm on a roll, you know, and this could be a stand-up comedy, but to do it on command and to do it when you know, it's such a I actually met up with a new friend a couple of weeks ago who does stand up, and it was just really insightful talking about it with her because I really admire that art form. And because we can all be funny, we all have our moments, but to be able to just get up there and turn it on is really impressive to me.
Yeah, command an audience.
Yeah, it's just very interesting to me. I mean, I'm sure you're probably friends with him too, but Emmett.
Oh yeah.
You're just kind of in awe of kind of what he does here in Seattle.
Well, he's it too, because you know, you go and watch Emmett and he's got the technical skills of a stand-up where he knows how to craft a joke and land it pretty perfectly, but he does these stories, these strange and wonderful stories that weave throughout funny parts and sad parts, you know, and he has a very distinctive thing he's doing up there that I always really appreciate.
The whole gamut of emotion, yeah.
He's just a very sincere guy, and it comes through in his comedy. And he's another, I mean, speaking of good Facebook follows, he's a good Twitter, Facebook follow. He's always he's got a very Emmett way of putting day-to-day stories. That's always pretty wonderful when you read about whatever he's up to with crows, or, you know.
Just his random Facebook status, middle of the night Facebook musings, you know, like about his elderly dog and stuff. I mean, just the most touching, poignant snippets of life, you know. And
yeah, totally.
That's a book I'd like to see. I actually offered recently and like to get him into the studio. He was down. I saw a portrait in the New Yorker of someone and their little dog, and I think I'm gonna do my own version with Emmett.
That'd be fantastic.
So, but it's
He knows how to effortlessly mug too. When we did a show together back in the day called Get Loaded, and we had to do a few photo shoots for that, and he was always really good. Like the rest of us, well, there was a lot of people in the cast that were not performers; they're just friends, that performed. So we when we're doing the photo shoot or whatever, don't really know what to do with our bodies. Just not aware. You're just like, ugh, kind of awkward, sit there. But Emmett was like, let me show you how it's done. And this is before he was as seasoned as he is now. So I'm sure he'd give you some good results. Him and Donna.
Anyway, yeah, he's just one. What? Yeah. I don't know. Hey, you're.
All right. Well, dude, I think my phone is about to die here. But this has been great, man. It's been good catching up, and I think we talked about our creative process a bit, which was pretty fun.
If I don't find my iPhone cord, I'm in trouble. That was too real. I was being a little real with you right there. It's like, where's my iPhone cord?
Yeah, it looks like we're both about to die on our phones. All right.
Well, man, I really, really, really appreciate you reaching out and doing this. It's been fun, and I look forward to, at some point visiting you in Providence. I really enjoyed seeing you and Brandy, and it was a really good time. And so I wish you weren't so far, but that's how things.
Yeah, it's just the way things go, but you're always welcome. And now we have a giant ass house that we could put you up in. So, just let us know. I think when things get back to normal, we'll be very ready to open up our banana bar and have some visitors.
A new wizard room, and I planned on it last year. It didn't happen because of Superhero Project Momentum, but I'm really kind of still having in my head that I'm going to embed in the Northeast for primary season, like in New Hampshire and stuff. Really hit campaign trail. My goals where I could do it full time, not just be a part-time kind of parachuter, but where I can really run with it and make it my living. And so that's still a goal. So I could see myself running India. So
yeah, definitely. Always welcome, and we're pretty centrally located. So
cool.
Well, good to see you, Nate.
Yep.
And I'll catch you later. Bye, man.
All right. See you, sir. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.